For Gary. All right. So this is Gary Durbin. Gary, do you want to tell everybody who you are? Because there's probably some people in here that recognize you, and there's probably some that don't. So.
Well, I'm the guy that does the music every Sunday, basically. I'm in charge of all the music. I'm responsible for everything, worship music that happens here at the church. So that's what I do. But you asked who I am.
Who are you?
Yeah. So I am. I'm a dad. So I love that, and yeah. After that, I guess I would say but I'm a child of God, and I'm a worship leader. So I guess that's probably the best way to describe me.
Okay, nice. All right, so here's what we're gonna do. So this is Gary. Gary is basically like an expert on worship. All right, no pressure. But what we want to do is we want to hear the questions that you guys have about worship. All right, so like legit. Ask questions. We're going to go through. We're going to pick which questions would be best. So the way that you're going to ask questions, if you take a look up at the screen, pull out your phone and text that number, all right? Whatever questions that you have about worship, we're going to throw them at Gary and see what happens.
About worship.
About worship.
I'm just kidding. You can ask anything.
I'm going to start with a question. So this morning at Youth Sunday, one of the questions was, if you were a scented candle, which scent would you be?
Definitely. I mean, this is easy.
Okay.
Like coconut, like the Hawaiian coconut. That's my favorite.
Hawaiian coconut. Yeah. Okay.
Reminds me of the beach.
Oh, okay. That's what I was going to ask. I was going to ask why. Okay. All right. Second question then is the second most popular. If you had an elephant, what would you do with it?
Oh yeah. I think I would figure out how to make a house powered by it.
Oh,
that's my genius idea.
I feel like that one might be copywritten or something like that. So, all right.
I would sell it.
You would sell it?
Yep.
Okay.
If I had an elephant?
Yeah. If you had an elephant, yeah. Oh, fair enough. Okay. All right. So we're gonna let them kind of some of these questions come in. All right. And I have a few questions for you. All right. Just off the bat. So, why is worship important? Why, like as a church, as like people that are Christians, like sitting in this room, why is worship important? Why do we do it?
Well, I guess my question would be, what do you mean by that? Because I think worship is a very broad word, a very broad topic. I think a lot of us think of worship. What do you guys think when I say worship? What's the first thing that comes to your mind? Singing. So that's a very narrow view of what worship is. That's only because singing is just a part of how we worship. So what was your question again?
So why is it important to worship?
I think it's important to worship and like focus on worship because it is central to God. It's of utmost importance to God. And with worship, what we have to understand is not if we worship, but what or whom we worship. So like we're always worshiping. The question is, who are we worshiping or what are we worshiping? Where is our adoration and our love and our attention and our value? Where is that all going? What do we value the most in our life? And if it's not God, then that's kind of a really clear, explanation of where our heart is at and what or whom are we worshiping. So it's not so much that if we worship, but it's what or whom we worship. And I think it's super important to focus on that and to answer that question because that will really direct a lot of our decisions and a lot of what we do, daily.
Awesome. All right, so we have some questions that are starting to come in. So first one that I want to ask, since you will lead worship on Sunday mornings, what is your favorite song to lead and why?
Yeah, I get to ask this a lot, and that's really hard for me to answer because I think that changes a lot. Because I'm in a position where I'm, it's like a dream position for me because I get to like pick songs, that we sing for our church, and so most of the new songs we do is like my favorite song right now. Yeah, that's a great question. So what is my favorite song that we sing right now? It's got to be King of Kings, probably, just because I think, not so much that it's like, it is an amazing song musically and all that stuff, but I just look forward to getting in on Sunday morning and hearing our church sing that, because I know there's a lot of passion behind it.
Yeah, that song's awesome. I love that song. Okay, next question. Somebody texted in. So we talked about worshiping through music. Is it biblical to listen to music that's not worship music? Is it biblical?
Is it biblical to listen to music that's not worship music? So
Yes.
I could get like real technical right now and go back to my original answer at the beginning of this, right? Like, what is worship?
Right.
So we could say that there's a lot of music that's worship music, even if it's not directed to God. It could be worship of materialistic things or sex or money or all that kind of stuff. But I think what you're saying is it okay to listen to music that we wouldn't maybe sing here on Sunday morning, or maybe not, you wouldn't hear on a Christian radio station? My answer to that would be if your parents are okay with it and it doesn't cause you to sin, then I would say it's okay.
Awesome.
That would be my safe answer, I guess. I don't know.
Sure. Okay.
Don't go to your parents and say, Gary said it's okay for me to listen to whatever I want. That's not good.
All right. Next question. So when you are going through and like picking songs or trying to figure out what you want to play on the Sunday morning or something like that, what do you look for in a song that makes it a good worship song?
Yeah. So when I'm talking to worship leaders and church leaders, what I tell them is they have to ask themselves what they want. So what do we want as a church when it comes to music on Sunday morning? And the answer to that question will determine a lot of the songs that we pick. And so for me, what I want and what I value and what we value and why Pastor Rick hired me and why we're on the same page and work well together is we both value the idea of the church singing, like as many people as possible in there singing loud, and we value that. So we value that more than we value us being a killer band on Sunday morning. We value that higher. We want our church family to sing the songs loud. So if we value that, then I go, okay, what's a great worship song? Well, it's something that our church can sing. And when I say our church, it's not one age group. You got to think of the grand spectrum of things. So a lot of times I'll think of an elderly person, someone in their 60s or 70s that's in the worship center, and I'll ask myself, will they be able to sing this song, or is this going to be like woohoo, And so I ask myself a lot of those questions, and I value that, and I feel like if the majority of the people can sing this song, then I think it's a really good song.
Yeah, that's good.
Now, I shouldn't stop there, because you asked what's a good worship song?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a value, but even higher than that value would be that it's biblical. So we're teaching people to sing songs, and what happens, and going back to the previous question about should we listen to other music, a lot of the times we're ingesting music and lyrics, and if we're not careful, we can indoctrinate ourselves with art. And art is very effective. That's why we use it here on Sundays. It helps us ingest some really good things, but it also can help us ingest some really bad things if we're not careful. So that's why I say it causes us to sin. That can lead us to idolatry and all those kinds of things. So huge value on making sure that the songs we sing are scriptural. So like if we put this song and we tested it against the Bible, and there's any question about it, we go like this. We don't sing it. So it's big value. So biblical, singable, probably. Gotcha.
And then so I want to follow that up. So you said a big emphasis is on like making sure the church can sing it, making sure everybody can sing it. So how do you make it so that you're not singing like it's a concert in there, but rather like you are leading the church in worship to God? Like, how do you do that? How do you make it different than a concert?
Well, obviously we got to make sure that the songs are meant to be sung by a group of people. Sometimes we'll get in a car and we'll listen to a song, whether it may be a Christian station or something, and I'll get requests through email, people like, could you do this song? And some of those songs are not meant to be sung by a congregation or a church. It's just not written for that. It's more just to be listened to, what was your question again? Oh, how to help people sing.
Right,
All right.
yeah.
So just making sure that those songs are singable. The other thing I do is sometimes I lower the key. So it's like sometimes the original versions will be way too high because they're meant to be recorded and it hits like the sexy part of the voice. Am I allowed to say that?
Yeah, you can say that, yeah.
All right, that's kind of a term they use. But just they do it in a key that makes their voice sound really good. And that's not really of high importance when you get into a congregation because we want everybody to sing. So sometimes I'll lower the key. And then aside from the songs, I pressure our people. So I put pressure on our church to sing. So there's times where I'm pushing them and I'm challenging them. Sometimes I'll back off the mic, and it puts pressure on all of us. Hey, we're not supposed to be. We're not just a concert here. We're like here to like participate and be a part of this. So yeah.
Nice. Okay. All right, I want to shift gears a little bit. So somebody texted in. So before this, though, you write music, right? Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty. Gary writes some great songs, and we actually sing some of them on Sunday mornings. So somebody's asking, how old were you when you started getting into music, and then also when you were writing your own music?
I was in high school, so I'm laughing because I think I first started. The first songs I wrote were like sappy love songs to a girl or something. And I'm so glad I don't have any record of those or anything.
You sure you don't have a record?
No, I promise.
Okay, all right, okay.
Yeah. And if I did, I would go burn them right now. So yeah, I learned how to play guitar my freshman year of high school. And as soon as I learned how to play guitar, the first thing I naturally started doing was just writing songs. It was kind of in me immediately. So.
Okay, nice. So my next question is, you as a worship leader, what are the most important aspects of being a worship leader?
Well, it goes back to what, I would answer that question with a question if I'm talking to a worship leader. What do you want? What do you want as a worship leader? Do you want people to sing? I think if that's the case, then I think you have to, as a worship leader, I would say be genuine. Because you can fake it, but most people can tell that you're faking it. Number two, you're faking it. Number three, God always knows you're faking it. So when it comes to worship, that's what it's all about, right? To sing to the Lord. He knows what's going on in your heart. So I would say be genuine and have a heart for people. So it goes back to Matthew 22, right? Yeah, Matthew 22, the greatest commandments, which is to love God and to love people. It really goes back to that. That's what I would say a great worship leader does, is that he loves God, or she loves God and loves people. And when you do that, number one, you're going to be genuine. Your heart's going to be right. You're going to be worshiping the Lord genuinely. And then you're going to look out like I'm looking out at you right now, and I'm going to care for you. And I'm going to love you. And we backstage, we'll pray that a lot. Like, may we go out and love these people. May we not just try to show off and, play great music, but may we not forget that we are here with our church family, and may we love them and serve them and help them. So I think, love God, love people. It's hard to beat that.
Awesome. All right, this next question, somebody texted in, is a great question. How do you worship when you aren't feeling anything at the moment?
How do you worship when you're not feeling it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, always remember that you are worshiping. Always remember that. Remember that if you're not feeling it, and I think what that probably means is that your emotions are maybe not there. Maybe that means that you're going through a rough time. Maybe that means that you've always struggled with corporate worship and you just can't quite get in it. You're not feeling like the crazy person next to you. I don't know what you're saying, but you're just not feeling it. But always remember that you're always worshiping. And we have to be careful that if we are bypassing corporate worship and bypassing participating in it. It could mean several different things, but one of the things we want to avoid is make sure it's not like a prideful thing. So if we're avoiding it because we are concerned about what people think about us, then that goes to insecurity. And at the root of insecurity is not humility, but it's actually pride. So, yeah, this is where I pressure people, like I said. I push people. What was the question again? I'm getting old.
It is, how do you worship when you aren't
You're not
feeling
feeling
it? Yeah.
So, how do you do that when you're not feeling it? Simply go to a mode of prayer. You know, if you're at a place where you're like, and I'll tell you what, when I'm at a place where I'm not feeling it, you know, I need to go to a mode of prayer and just talk to the Lord. Talk to the Lord about how I'm feeling it, or how I'm feeling at that moment. And I guarantee you, if you genuinely go to the Lord, express yourself to Him, He'll turn your heart towards Him.
Cool. You were mentioning that we are always worshiping, and that's like a big part that plays into that. And at the beginning, like you said, that worship is more than singing. So how do we worship in our daily lives aside from singing?
Sin less. That's a big part of it.
Good luck.
And that's hard, you know, to do that, to not live in the flesh, but to live by the Spirit. That's a huge part of it. But how do we worship God in our daily lives? You know, we simply ask ourselves, what does God want me to do? It's making decisions that would honor God. It's making sure our mind, when it has those thoughts come in, that we turn from those thoughts and we go towards the Lord. That's worship. You know, that's like, it's turning to the Lord. Romans 12 says it's all about our sacrifice, that like our lives, that we are a living sacrifice. This is our worship to the Lord. This is acceptable worship to the Lord, it says in Romans. So it's a daily thing, and it's just simply making decisions that will honor God. And when people see us act or talk or any of that, may they be able to look at us and say, okay, yeah, they love the Lord. That's worship.
Awesome. Ooh, okay. How do we get over the fear of giving it your all, no matter what we sound like, or the fear of not being liked for raising our hands or for being expressive during worship? You want me to read that again?
No.
Okay, all right.
So how do we get over that?
Yes.
Yeah, how do we get over I think that's insecurities, right? Is that kind of what it's talking to you?
Yeah.
That's tough. I mean, it really is. It's there was a lady in my first church a long time ago who dealt with this really hard, and she was really insecure about expressing herself. But the crazy thing is, she really wanted to. Like, she was falling in love with Jesus, and she was drawn close to Him. So it's kind of a natural inclination to kind of want to get into the songs we were singing. But she had a really hard time doing it. So she would come and tell me every week, and I would just challenge her and encourage her. And then one week she came up to me and she's like, "I did it this week." And I'm like, What are you talking about? She's like, I lifted my hands. I'm like, really? Because I didn't really see you do that, you know. And we had pews, and she was like, I went like this under the pew, like this far down, so nobody could see it. But it was like, I mean, that's cool. It counts, right? I mean, yeah. It's expressing. So I would just take baby steps, and there's a lot of funny things that I've heard about that. Like, you can start right here, and then start right here. You know, I don't know. Just it is a pride thing, and you know, I think the more we fall in love with Jesus and say, I don't care, I'm not. The Bible says not to be ashamed. You know. Mm-hmm. I think the more we can get to that place, the more bold our worship will be.
Yeah. Cool. I want to get back to that in a minute, but somebody asked a question that deserves at least talking about a little bit. So they said, I have some depression, and I'm wondering if or how worship and singing can help me out of a dark place.
Yeah, what I love about the Lord is that He doesn't require us to be not depressed and not sad when it comes to worship. A lot of the Psalms are what they call laments, so it's just the writer's in a dark time, and he's singing to the Lord. and it's not pretty. It's, maybe that's the reason we don't sing a lot of those psalms, because it's just kind of depressing when you hear, the lyrics. But the cool thing about that is that God says, bring it, bring your depression, bring your anxiety, bring your sadness to me. There's nothing probably more beautiful to him than when his kids come to him and they're like, I'm sad and I'm depressed, and we're just turning to our Father. I mean, think about that. That's a beautiful thing, and I think the Lord welcomes that. So, I think understanding that can really help, to know that we are dealing with a heavenly Father that says, hey, I don't want your worship when you're happy only. I want your worship when you're sad too. And I want your true feelings and your ugly thoughts and all those things. As long as you're turning to me, and as long as you are coming with your heart dedicated to me, my arms are open wide, and I accept you even in this nasty time in your head and in your heart. But man, just bring it. So I think that's really helpful for me, as I have gone through seasons like that, to know that the Lord welcomes me even in those times.
Awesome. Okay, so before the previous question, you were talking about, we were talking a little bit about expressive worship and kind of what that looks like. And there are probably people that have walked in here during worship and have seen people like raising their hands, or like maybe their eyes are shut or something like that, And so what does that mean? Why do we do that? Like, what's the point of expressive worship like that?
Yeah, I mean, the short answer is, why do we express worship like that? It's just all biblical stuff. I mean, I think a lot of times we overthink it, and it's kind of weird to say, over-spiritualize it. So what I mean by that is, I've heard people say, I'm just not, what's the word? I don't, what's the word they use for that? They don't feel God moving them to lift their hands. Okay. Well, you don't have to feel God moving you to lift your hands, because the Bible just says to do it. I've never heard anybody say that about clapping, Never heard anybody say that about shouting. But I think simplify it. Simplify the idea of expression. When we're excited about something, it's hard to contain ourselves about it. All right, now take a moment. Think about something that you went crazy about recently. Everybody got that in their head? Think about it. God is saying, that's what I want. I want you to be so in love with me and so excited about me that you can't contain your excitement. So what he does is he gives us just biblical stuff, and you could even maybe share this on social media or something, just these scriptures. Psalm 134 talks about lifting hands. Psalm 47 talks about clapping. Psalm 95 talks about bowing down. Psalm 95 talks about shouting. And Psalm 150 talks about even dancing. Make sure it's appropriate, not TikTok. But, God says, I want your excitement. I want you to be so excited about me that you can't contain yourself. I'm a big sports guy. And when my team wins the championship, I don't sit there and just go, oh, that was nice. That was wonderful. I moved here in 2016, right after what? The Cavs, Cleveland finally won a championship. And yeah, everybody remembers that feeling, and what you did and how you responded and how you expressed yourself, assuming you're a Cavs fan or a Cleveland fan. But the Bible gives us very clear permission and instructions. So I would just refer to that and say, okay, if I love the Lord and I want to worship him, here's some clear ways that God's asked me to do it here in the Psalms.
Yeah, that's what I was going to. When I was growing up, a lot of times the emphasis was put on like this has to be like a very serious moment, and like if you're expressive, like that just means like you're like not paying attention, or like you're doing something weird or something like that, But it was really freeing when I saw like biblical leaders like in the Bible that were doing that. and that were getting hype. They were like getting excited about doing that, even in like those lament psalms too. So it's very freeing. Yeah. So now Gary is going to lead us in a time of worship. So what Gary's going to do is he's going to get set up, but I want you guys to stand up real quick, all right? I want you guys to stand up. So I want you guys to think about the things that Gary has talked about. So he has talked a lot about the importance of worship. He's talked about why we worship isn't just because we're doing it because it's what everybody else is doing, or because we feel obligated to, or it's because we come together and that's just what happens. The reason that we are worshiping, like Gary said, is because we want to worship the Lord. We're called to worship the Lord. We love the Lord. That's why you worship. And if you're standing in this room and like you were afraid to be expressive about your worship, don't be ashamed. I think I look up to somebody that takes the opportunity to show the Lord how much they love him and how much joy they have through their worship of him. So tonight, I want you to think about those things that Gary was saying. Raise your hands, close your eyes, have passion, yell, scream. Nobody's gonna judge you if you were belting out the words. Do it. And I want you to think on those things and use that to better your worship. Use that to worship God more. So I'm going to pray and pray some of those things with me, and then Gary is going to lead us, all right? Dear Lord, I thank you for today. I thank you for everybody in this room. I thank you for their hearts for you in this room. And if it's their first time here tonight and they're wondering what this is, that we can be a voice that is outcrying in love for you. And Lord, those of us that are in a tough place, that are sad, that are depressed, that are angry, that are frustrated, that we can let that out now. And all of these qualities that Gary has talked about, that you have spoke through him, let that be part of our worship tonight. Help us to worship you better because you deserve it. You deserve our joy. You deserve our worship. In your name I pray. Amen.